The wind swallowed her scream. "Please, don't leave me here." Ethan didn't even turn around. He climbed into the truck, slammed the door, and spun the tires across the frozen road. Snow sprayed over Sarah as the taillights disappeared into the white storm. Her injured ankle refused to hold her weight. The temperature kept falling. She knew the mountain would not forgive mistakes. But Ethan had forgotten one thing. There was someone else out there, someone who had once promised never to leave a soldier behind. Miles away, an old German shepherd lifted his head. Rex had heard her whistle. Years earlier, Sarah had served 8 years in the U.S. Army as a combat medic. She wasn't loud. She never bragged about her service. Even after returning home, she preferred helping people instead of talking about medals. The only reminder of her military life was Rex, the retired Army K-9 she had adopted after his handler was killed overseas. Everyone called him just an old dog. Sarah knew better. He had saved lives under enemy fire. He could track a person through storms that would confuse helicopters. When Sarah married Ethan, she believed she had found someone who respected her quiet strength. First, he did. Then his business started failing. Debt piled up. Arguments became normal. He blamed everyone except himself, especially Sarah. He mocked her military story. "Your dog is useless now," he laughed one evening. "He's too old to protect anyone." Sarah simply smiled and scratched Rex behind the ears. "He still remembers," she whispered. Rex looked at her with calm brown eyes, almost as if he understood every word. Months later, Ethan convinced Sarah to sign papers refinancing the cabin she had inherited from her late father. "It's just temporary," he promised. "We'll recover." She trusted him. Love sometimes sounds like confidence, even when confidence is hiding selfish plans. One snowy weekend, Ethan suggested driving to the mountain cabin. "We need time together," he said. Sarah wanted to believe him. She packed food, she packed blankets, and without thinking, she packed Rex. The drive felt unusually quiet. Ethan barely spoke. His hands tightened around the steering wheel. Every few minutes when they reached the cabin, another argument began. The bank had rejected another loan. He exploded. "This is your fault." Sarah stared at him. "My fault? If you'd sold your father's land months ago, we'd be rich. My father's land isn't for sale. You care more about memories than your husband." "No," Sarah answered softly. "I care about honesty." Those words hit harder than any insult. Ethan's face changed, cold, empty, dangerously calm. He grabbed the truck keys. "We're leaving." Snow was already covering the road. As Sarah followed him outside, she slipped on hidden ice. A sharp pain shot through her ankle. She collapsed. "Ethan," he looked down. She reached toward him. Instead of helping, he stepped backward. "You'll make it." Then he drove away. Rex barked wildly from inside the truck. Sarah heard scratching against the back window. The sound faded with the engine. Silence returned. Only the wind remained. Sarah tried crawling toward the cabin. Each movement hurt. The cold slowly numbed her hands. She remembered every survival lesson from the army. Stay awake. Stay calm. Keep moving. But her body was running out of strength. Then she remembered something. A special whistle. One she had used hundreds of times during military rescue drills. She gathered every bit of air left in her lungs. The whistle echoed across the frozen valley. Then nothing. Minutes passed. Snow covered her jacket. Her eyelids grew heavy. Far down the mountain, Ethan stopped for gas. He told himself Sarah would eventually reach the cabin. He ignored the guilt rising inside him. Then his phone rang. It was the bank manager. "I've been trying to reach your wife." "Why?" The military compensation paperwork was finally approved. Ethan frowned. "What compensation?" "The settlement connected to Sergeant Daniel Brooks and Army K-9 Rex." Silence. "The amount is just over $3 million. Ethan nearly dropped the phone. "What? The money belongs entirely to Mrs. Sarah Collins. She never filed the final paperwork until recently." His heart started racing. $3 million. He turned the truck around for the first time that day. Not because he loved Sarah, because he suddenly remembered her value. Back on the mountain, another sound broke through the storm. A bark, deep, powerful, closer every second. Sarah forced her eyes open. A familiar shape burst through the blowing snow. Rex. His fur was covered in ice. His breathing was heavy, but his eyes never left her. Somehow, he had escaped the truck. He nudged Sarah gently, then barked again. Not random barking, signal barking. Exactly as he had been trained years before. Snowmobile patrol several hundred yards away stopped. One rescuer raised his hand. "Did you hear that?" Another nodded. "That's a working K-9. They followed the sound. Minutes later, they found Sarah, barely conscious, wrapped beside Rex, who refused to move away from her body. One rescuer smiled with disbelief. I know this dog. He knelt beside Rex. No way, Sarah recognized him. Captain Miller, her former rescue commander, he gently placed a hand on Rex's neck. I thought you retired years ago. He did, Sarah whispered weakly. But apparently, nobody told him. Captain Miller's eyes filled with emotion. He just completed one last rescue. At the hospital, Sarah recovered over several days. Doctors said another hour in the snow might have changed everything. Captain Miller visited every afternoon. So did local reporters after hearing about the retired Army dog who had saved his former medic. The story spread quickly. Communities donated money for retired military dogs. Veterans shared stories of loyalty. Rex became a quiet hero once again. Then Ethan arrived. He carried flowers, an apology already prepared. I'm so sorry, he said. I panicked. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Then she noticed the folded bank letter sticking out of his jacket pocket. She understood immediately. You didn't come because I survived. His face froze. You came because of the money. He couldn't answer. He didn't have to. Captain Miller stepped forward. The police already reviewed the timeline. Leaving an injured person stranded during dangerous weather carried serious legal consequences. Ethan lowered his head. He realized every excuse sounded empty now. Sarah quietly removed her wedding ring. She placed it beside the untouched flowers. I survived because loyalty came from a dog. She looked at Rex sleeping peacefully beside her bed. Not from my husband. Months later, Sarah restored her father's cabin. Part of the compensation-funded program supporting retired military working dogs and struggling veterans. Rex spent his days sleeping by the fireplace, finally enjoying the peaceful life he had earned. Visitors often asked Sarah why she never spoke badly about Ethan. She simply smiled. Holding on to bitterness only keeps you in the storm. Sometimes the people who promise forever are the first to walk away, and sometimes the quiet soul beside you never breaks that promise. Rex couldn't speak. He didn't need to. His loyalty said everything. Have you ever been surprised by who truly stood beside you when life became its hardest?